my name is Jesse Schillinger here with Honest Accurate Auto Service. Today we're going to discuss leaks. Multiple leaks in a car. Oil, coolant, power steering, ATF, the list goes on. Basically, the one thing that you need to know about a leak is once a leak has started in your car, it's not going to get better, it's only going to get worse. A couple tips to help you with leaks, whether it's oil, coolant, transmission fluid, power steering fluid, is to check them. Once a month is a good rule of thumb. Some people like to check it every time they fill up the gas. Other people just tend to check it when it's time for their oil change, which is a little too long. We're going to look at a car today that has a couple leaks, and we'll point some things out on them. There's a couple of different ways your cars can lose fluid. One way is through leaks. You can either be externally leaking the fluid onto the ground or internally leaking it into the engine or into another component. Whether it's ATF going into the coolant, or whether it's power steering fluid going onto the ground, or coolant going into the chamber, there's plenty of ways to lose fluid. The biggest thing that you need to know as a consumer is to make sure that you check your fluid so that you know if you're losing fluid. Once you know if you're losing fluid, then we need to dive into where that fluid is going. One tip that will help all customers is once you've noticed that you're losing fluid, put a cardboard box under your car. Always park in the same spot on the driveway so you can see if it's getting bigger, worse, or if there's nothing there. Once you know that, oh my gosh, I'm losing fluid out of my car, bring it to a certified mechanic and have them check it out. Another nice tip is anytime you have a fluid leak, you can always ask your mechanic, could you show me where it's leaking from? You can always go back to your car inside of a shop and they should be able to point out where that fluid is coming from. Here's an example of a vehicle with a couple different fluid leaks. We're going to look at some fluid leaks that are coming down here and some fluid leaks that you're also going to have over here on the oil pan. So we'll start with this leak that you see right here. It's on the transmission. If we look higher, there's not much oil up there. And if we look on both sides of the axles, both axle seals are coming down to meeting this point. So we would probably start with axle seals in this particular case. And if we move to the other side over here, same thing. We're going to start with looking at a higher point where we see if it's dry or wet and make our way down and see that most of this oil is pooling on the oil pan. Now, does that mean the oil pan gasket is leaking? Not necessarily. There's also a timing cover over here on the far side, which is very difficult to see if Edna comes around this side. You'll see that there's some fluid on the end of these timing cover. We would probably want to check underneath there just to make sure there's not engine seals leaking. But with all this fluid, it's going to be inside this cover or inside this gasket here due to the fact that there's no oil at a higher point. So once you've gone to your mechanic and you've determined whether it's an external leak like we've seen on this car where the fluid is coming out or an internal leak that needs more diagnostic time, then at that point in time you can further figure out what it's going to take to fix your particular vehicle. For more information and more tips about your vehicle, subscribe to our YouTube channel.